To get started, again, my name is Mike Vizo. John and Toye will be with you in a moment. We are recording this, so if there's any part that you miss or you have to dip out for a second, don't fret. We'll send you a recording by the end of the day today. We ask that you take a feedback survey so that way we can understand how your experience was and that we can improve it for the future. And then if you have suggestions of topics that you'd like to see, we certainly welcome you to provide feedback on that as well. If you have questions during this entire presentation, message me directly. We'll have a Q&A at the end for John and Toye to answer your questions in more detail. If they fit, we'll fold them in to the conversation. Again, we want you to be interactive, have fun, and hear what these two talented people have to say. So without further ado, I'll shut my video off and I'll turn it over to you, John and Toye.
All right, thank you, Mike. Well, welcome everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic, networking for business and beyond. So we're going to be chatting on the value of networking and why it is so important now more than ever. It's always been a value to people, but today we're going to talk about how it's going to help you from a business perspective and a personal perspective. My name is John Rubito. I'm the Executive Vice President of TransTech IT Staffing. I've been helping organizations in the Midwest and nationwide for the last 26 years achieve their IT initiatives through placing the proper people to help them reach their goals. Very proud to say that TransTech was just rated #1 employer to work for in Illinois. So I'm gonna brag on that for a quick second because all of us are very proud of that. I'm gonna now introduce our speaker today, Toye Johnson-Vincent. Toye, you want to give a little introduction about yourself?
Yes, hello, and welcome everyone. I appreciate you joining today to listen to and participate in the webinar, Networking for Business and Beyond. Again, my name is Toye, and I am a motivational speaker and HR talent acquisition professional, and more on the consulting side now. I'm also a certified life coach, which I help you navigate both your career or your life skills journey, as well as a recent podcast host on Speak to Me First podcast show, can be found on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, and so on. Yes.
Well, thank you, Toye. We are very, very pleased to have you today with your dynamic background, and we're looking forward to how you can share some of your insights with us. So real quick, I just want to share my contact information. If anybody on the webinar is looking for some industry stats as to what we're seeing going on with employment in the IT industry, I'd be more than happy to spend 15 to 30 minutes to do a market review with you. There's my contact information. I'll share it at the end. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Well, I hope that everyone's ready to talk about networking because as we kind of were alluding to, it's very important more now than ever. And I'm going to turn it over to Toye and we're going to get started.
Yes. Well, again, I thank you so much for inviting me to speak today on this webinar. And you know a lot more about me now. You know that I love to network. And so call me, whatever you want to call me, but I just happen to be one of those people who enjoy it. And I like to bring you on that journey today so that networking will no longer seem like a chore. It will be something that you can really utilize in your business space, in your personal space, educational space, for those of us who may be going back to get an advanced degree or just starting over in general. You will need to network and work your way around the net. So with that said, why don't we just go forward? How about it? Well, more than one dimension. I want you to think about networking as something more than just looking for a job, because that, again, is what we typically associate with, job, whether it's job loss or, you're just starting out in the workforce, etc. And again, it's more than that. It really comes down to building relationships. So the real definition or the concept behind networking overall is to gain more access to people, places, or things that can actually help you reach your goals. And again, it's not just career, but educational goals, personal goals, etc., and including family goals. And we all know now, because of the pandemic, and of course, as we're emerging from that, family is more important than ever. So some of these tools, you can actually use that along with the family lines. But you have to be able to, I always say, the mindset. You need to think outside of the box. Think non-traditional, and non-traditional meaning the old way. I don't want to say the old way, but what we were used to. And that was going out into career fairs and with hundreds of people, getting the business cards. And sometimes you know where those business cards can land, right? So they don't always get back home to people's portfolios. Sometimes they're just there on the desk and things like that as the event is going on. So you want to prevent that. That was the old way, but the new way, virtual, is the way. Even including as we are emerging from the pandemic, you will find yourself, or you should find yourself, and be intentional about virtual connections. Now, you might say, well, virtual, maybe that's not as genuine, right? Because I'm not seeing the person, or I'm not shaking their hand, or what have you. But let me tell you, just like we're involved right now today with this event webinar, this is the way of the future. I don't believe it's going to go away just because the pandemic may go away. So you want to get used to that. Making the connections by building your network virtually is your number one priority. And you can do that with your employees, get them involved, all the way up to the executive level. Everyone in your organization should have some responsibility of networking. One thing on that, schedule more virtual events. And what I mean by that, just like today, it's a scheduled webinar. It's not the only way to do things virtually, but it is a really good way to bring a lot of people in one place at one time to gain information and or exchange information. So that is the key to exchanging information. Fewer job fairs, and that is the truth. They aren't going away completely, but you will find fewer people, again, gathering in one place in large numbers until everything really does get back to complete normalcy, as we can tell. And so in the meantime, what do? You have needs, you need candidates. You want to partner with organizations or other people, right? That can help you achieve your goals. So it will become your responsibility to understand that even though the job fair in person, you can still do a job fair virtually. You invite, you have access to LinkedIn, you have contacts, you have your partners, and you work with them. They can come on as speakers and talk about their organizations as well. If you're just doing it for your organization, that's fine too. But again, you can schedule them. And you can also schedule the amount of people, the exact amount of people that you really want to be there, so it's not overwhelming. So that's what I wanted to say about non-traditional today.
That's definitely, Toye. It seems like you're actually asking everyone to get out of their comfort zones and do things a little bit differently than they have in the past. And certainly the pandemic has forced us to do that. Can you give us like one example of something that you've done differently from a network perspective? I know I have one example, but I want to hear what you have.
Yes. And it may be on the same lines, who knows? Well, one of the things that I've started doing was scheduling. And once let me just go back for a second. Once I've, met you virtually, if you will, or we connected, say, for example, on LinkedIn. Well, I don't want to just leave it there, because that was kind of something that was really, an issue for me. It was kind of like, okay, so you connect and now what? Okay, so now I try to follow up with that person, and I'm guilty of it too. Maybe I didn't do it the right way. And so we can all make mistakes, and I'm no different. And I said, wait a minute, this isn't working. And then I realized 2 weeks later, someone was saying, hey, I reached out to you, but I didn't hear back from you. So the dream is in the follow-up. The connection is in the follow-up. And what I've done was I go ahead and follow up via the messenger. And I want them to know that this is the real deal. Like, I'm very serious about connecting, because I noticed on your profile something that we may be able to share or help one another. So that's very important.
Okay. What I will tell you is one of the things that we are doing differently is what we're doing today. We never hosted webinars prior to the pandemic. So there's obviously, there have to be different ways to get in front of our potential customers, our current clients, and obviously candidates that we're looking for our clients. And a year ago, I would have never thought that we would have been doing webinars, on a consistent basis, but you have to change your way of thinking and think outside the box and do things differently. So that was the example I wanted to share.
Yes, and one of the other things too is that I've joined more groups, even including Facebook groups that, for business and beyond, and basically that was another way where I sort of shied away from that initially, but now I understand that you can choose a few groups. You don't have to be overwhelmed with it. It should not feel like a chore. That's the first thing I want to say right off the bat. Networking should not feel like a chore. If it does, there's only two things happening. Number one, your heart really isn't in it. And then the other thing is, you need to adjust, maybe tweak a little bit of how you're doing things in terms of networking.
That's a really true statement. If your heart is not in it, you need to.
Either that or it's a song, maybe. Yes. Well, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. Build and maintaining relationships. As I mentioned a few moments ago, it's one thing to gather all of these contacts. And I kind of use this as an example a lot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to say favorite five or Fab Five or something like that. We all know who that company is. It's a mobile company, you know what I mean? And you would create those 5 people, maybe it was your family or your closest friends or something, and they would be in the forefront of your mind when you would open your phone. So you just had to press that button, almost like a speed dial. Well, think of networking in terms of speed networking, because you have to move on and you have to move forward. If the relationships are not being fostered or followed up with, then you are wasting valuable time. So it is really important in terms of networking. You first foster the relationship, you introduce yourself. And I don't mean, please don't be a stalker on LinkedIn or anything. Don't do all of that stuff. Come on, guys. I mean, you want to make sure that, you follow up. That's great. You just met somebody and maybe they're kind of on the fence. Maybe they feel that, well, all you want to, you just want me to, donate something or whatever. So you want to carefully be selective and strategically keep in mind everyone is on social media for a number of reasons, but the number one, hopefully, is to network and exchange information. So building and maintaining that relationship will keep and sustain you and or your organization and the partners that you are trying to connect with. Recruiting new people to your network. Well, guess what? It's called a networking circle. And I used to, as I was training, especially in the nonprofit organizations, would train people on how to develop a networking circle, right? We can do it in corporate environments as well. But initially, it's really building that circle, and that circle may contain 10 people. So forget about the favorite 5, we bumped that up to 10. And the reason why is because you need new people all of the time. You can't just say, oh, I have 500 contacts. I have 500 people on my LinkedIn or Facebook page, thousands or what have you. Who cares if they can't help you? If they cannot connect with you on a different level other than a baseline level, then you need to understand how to sift through the noise, as they say. But don't be afraid to bring people in. And fresh ideas and things that can help you, your goals, and believe it or not, this is true, Don't just take. It's an exchange. So you need to be willing to give others as well, exchange. Understanding the mission of your mission statement in your company or organization, or even your own personal mission statement. I have my own personal mission statement. I'm not a huge corporation, but I have my own, which means I know the depths of what I will do, what I won't do, who I want to partner with or collaborate, or, whatever works in a positive way. You need to understand the mission statement, because that statement, if you go on to most organizations, they have one, whether it's on their landing page or a few pages in. Typically you'll find it 1 to 2 pages, and they tell you, what are they all about? Or what is the mission of that company? If that mission statement doesn't fit what you're all about, then you might want to move on. And that's, something of, it may seem valuable at the time. Well, I don't want to miss that company. I don't want to do this. I don't want to, but you never know. And your mission statement can change as much as you desire. One last thing, keep in mind your core values to attract high quality candidates. What do I mean by that? Well, go right back to your mission statement. If your mission statement is at a very senior level in terms of the mindset and in writing, right? People are reading it and they're, looking at it, and they're going through your website, they're going through your pages and seeing some of your events. Who do you connect with? Who are your other partners? You are highly visible. If that is the case, you want to have highly visible and high quality candidates versus the latter. So it's what your organization will attract is what you're going to bring in. It's kind of like, I don't know about you, but if I say, well, okay, I'm not eating that great this week, and I already know that's not the best for me, so I have to switch up and go with some more healthier choices. So same rules apply. Keep in mind, to attract quality candidates, you have to present yourself in a quality light, starting with your mission statement, starting with getting out in front of candidates and or partners, or potential partners, because everyone you meet, you may not want to collaborate with them. You may not want to invite them to present. You may not want to do any of that. So again, be intentional. And that's my last point on that.
Well, and I think it's a good point, because companies always talk about their core values, but do they truly live their core values? I know here within our organization here at TransTech, we really believe in our core values. And I'm always very excited when I interview somebody and they go to our website and they talk about our core values and they truly ask about them during the interview process. And what we do is we have a Tuesday meeting every week, and we talk about what was going on, and we have like what we call a nomination. And basically we tie that back to our core values, how someone within the organization has helped the other person, and ties it to the core values. So core values are great as long as you're actually preaching them and you're following through with them as well.
Yes.
But Toye, I did want to ask you a question when you were talking about, give and take with networking. Do you think that people's networks fall flat because they constantly take, but they don't give back?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And, I probably am as guilty as that as well in the past, until I figured out that's not how it works. And so you can't beat yourself up about it. You just need to know, you need to learn how to adapt and adjust, because let me just say this, time is valuable. And when you're taking up someone's time, they want to know that they've spent quality time learning more about you, how you can exchange information, and how you can connect. And if for some reason, maybe it's not going to work the first time, it doesn't mean that they won't contact you again. So it's very important. Candidates are watching the companies. They are watching who you're bringing in, who's leaving. And as we know, when someone leaves a company, what do? They start talking. So, but rule number 1 is never say anything bad about your past employer, right? Well, some people didn't get that memo. So you have to be very much in the forefront of, as you're out there networking, and your core value, and people are take. They're just basically saying, well, I got what I needed. Oh, great. She's offering a free complimentary, coaching call. yes, I am. I just happen to be. And then you may or may not see that person, but for the most part, they want to pass your name or your contact information on to someone else. And that's the hope in that.
Exactly. I always remind myself as we're going into the value of networking that whenever I go to someone in my network to ask a question or ask a favor, I always follow up, finish the conversation with, how can I help you? And
Yes.
I'll be the first to admit that I'm sometimes guilty of that. I don't ask that, but I think it's very, very important to always follow through with that.
Yes, how can I help you? And I'm learning that more and more, especially as, someone who is always constantly on LinkedIn, the professional website where we do a lot of exchange, but also on my Facebook page. So I'm very mindful. Again, it all starts in the mindset, and then it just works its way down into the heartstrings at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, value of networking. I love that word, value, because we all have value. You should have a sense of value. And if not, I want to ask you, why not? It can only go up from here. So you have to value your time. You have to value other people's time. That's the real key thing about value. Now, there are about 4 different ways. Now, as a communications major, I learned always the how, what, when, why, where, all of those in my communication class 101 back in the day. However, there was a lot more to that. And as we know, you have to sift through the noise. You have to read between the lines of communication. So understanding the value, that gives you strength. That gives you strength to continue to network with high quality candidates or partners. That is the bottom line to that. What does the who mean of value of networking? Well, what I mean by that is your targeted audience, who you are networking with, that adds value to the end result. So you have to be selective. I know it's not like, it's right back to, well, I have 500 people on my LinkedIn as contacts, but we're not always connecting in a way that we could or should. So you always have to go back, take some time to add value, go back and take another look, second look at profile pages, activity, and see if you can connect on a different level. There may be some things that you miss. I mean, again, social media can be overwhelming, but it can also be your friend when it comes to networking. What is the value of networking? Again, it's back to the strengthening your communication with multiple people, places, so that when it's time for you to maybe make a hire or a hard to fill opportunity, you're not sitting by the phone saying, well, I'm not networking today. I'm not calling anyone today. And what's the point? We're all virtual. We're not really in person. You cannot stop at that juncture. No, do not do that. You have to move forward. If you speak to 1 or 2 people per day, it's better than speaking to 0. That may be in the form of email. It may be in a form of texting. It may be in a form of, just someone says, hey, let me give you a call. I found your number. I have an old business card. Oh, and for all of my wonderful people out there who remember the Rolodex, well, if you still have it. But 2 more things. Why? Again, to increase the value of your organization. That's why you are really networking. And also for personal reasons, perhaps personal development, you were thinking about going back to school. You were thinking about, you don't have enough information to align what your business goals are. And you're saying, hey, I really need to grab a certificate. And I don't mean grab it. I mean, you need to earn it, but you are going to sign up for a class or something, maybe a LinkedIn class. And a lot of those are free, by the way. So that's what I mean with that. It's called return on investment, ROI. Again, you can use who, what, why, and when, but it will always come back to ROI, return on investment. And the last thing is when and how it relates to value. When is a good time to network? If you have to think about it, well, let me just tell you this. I'm going to make it real simplified here. Network anytime, please. Go ahead and network anytime. And that is the truth. You don't want to wait until your company, maybe you're an HR professional, you're in charge of talent acquisition, staffing, recruiting, you're generalist. Everybody can play an important role in networking. And that means if you know that there is a hard to fill opportunity in your organization, you want to get it out there in the forefront via social media, through word of mouth, through referrals, etc. Any time is a good time. Never wait for hard to fill positions.
And I also think that right now there has to be a lot of discipline around networking. I know personally, I used to go on probably 2 networking meetings a month pre-pandemic, and it's very easy to ignore those now that they're done, online.
Yes.
Now more than ever, you have to be disciplined and say, all right, I just need to cut out this time and I'm not going to miss it. And I think that's very important. I think a lot of people are missing out in that regard right now.
Yes. And because it's virtual and you want to be genuine no matter what you do. People can read between the lines. We're all smart people. We can see it. We know if you really are interested in networking with that individual or organizations, you have to put your best foot forward and follow up. And maybe if you're doing 2 per week, that's great. Because again, a lot of us are still working from home. If you are sort of an entrepreneur and you're out there, I know it's tough. I consider myself a solopreneur. I don't have a large team behind me. So what you see is what you get. And I'm very actionable type of person. So I understand that I need to promote myself. I understand I need to market myself. I understand that I need to connect with people that may be able to show me something that I'm missing regarding, what I do. And so that's really important. And being genuine is people can really tell. So just be yourself. It's better that way, including virtually. It's like a screening interview over the phone. And that's what they're doing now a lot. So make sure you smile over the phone.
All right. As I'm changing to the next slide, I remember early on in my career, someone asking me what my Rolodex looked like. Maybe a lot of people on a webinar don't even know what that means, but it's funny.
I love that old Rolodex. Yes. And I guess we're strategic in utilizing it as well. Well, we're talking about strategic networking, right? Everything I do personally and professionally, for the most part, is strategic. And I'm always thinking, and I want you, whoever is listening to this webinar, and under the sound of our voices today, I want you to think about being more strategic, because a lot of us already are, right? But you can get better at being strategic. And if a formula doesn't work, you've tried it, you've tried to increase the number of people or contacts in your network, and you're trying to add, and people are not calling you back, or they're not following up, okay. And sometimes that just may mean, guess what you have to do? Walk away. Again, you could have 500 people in your contacts. I guarantee you, if there's any of us on this webinar, you probably have a great number of contacts, but it's rare that you actually connect with them at all, other than, okay, great, now you're part of my network. So you want to change that, because as an organization, you have goals. You have to meet your goal, meet and or exceed your goals. I often think about, well, it's not, okay, great, you've met your goal. Maybe you met your goal and your numbers for your recruitment numbers this month, your metrics, but what about next month? What about next quarter? What about next year? As we know, everything has changed, even including from the pandemic. And on that point, before I want to just say, quality versus numbers. Quality will win every single time. You can have the best candidate, or what you think is the best candidate, because you have, 100 people applied for the job, but you have to sift through the noise. So there may be some people that are right up there neck and neck in terms of hires, But again, you have to be strategic. You have the mindset of perhaps that person can be a great fit for another role. So it doesn't mean that you lose the candidate. But again, stop focusing so much on the numbers. I get it with staffing, with HR, talent acquisition, as a person who worked in recruiting on the corporate side, and for a very tiny bit on the staffing side, right? So we think of it more sales, but we have to understand you can make the connection and get the quality candidate. Your partners or whomever you are forwarding those candidates to, they are relying on you to get it right the first time. And because, they can always go somewhere else. So it's very important, quality over numbers. Referrals should be a priority. And why is that? Well, it's pretty much, you just need to know that word of mouth, even though in the midst of pandemic, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, it won't matter. Referrals are important. Some companies or individuals, entrepreneurs, they decide, well, we're going to give you 25% off if you refer someone to my new business, right? Or we're going to have a $25 lunch or gift certificate, something out there for referrals. Most often you'll find that there is an exchange. It's not always money. It's not always dollars and cents, but it may be, well, wait a minute, I have a few people that we interviewed, they really weren't a good fit, and now they want to pass them on to you. If you've partnered with them, then you're trusting them that they're not wasting your time.
And I will tell you, referrals for us are a large part of our business. Our greatest success with staffing folks comes from referrals. There is no doubt about that.
Excellent, excellent. And if I could just piggyback on that one last point, I wrote this down, and that's through the one of the things that we need to know while we're out there networking, and I probably should have brought it up in the beginning, is that it's like when you go to the doctor's office, you should know your numbers, right? Somebody says, what's your blood pressure? What's your A1C? What is it? If you don't know what they are, then you can't really attack or try to solve the issue and maintain a good, healthy lifestyle, right? So it says, and this is Bureau of Labor Statistics, 6.1% as of April 2021. Unemployment rate, adult men, 6.1%, 5.6% adult women. And of course, a huge decline in part-time opportunities. So what that really means, if I'm looking to hire someone or bring them into my small business, I need to know what the numbers are looking like. It doesn't mean if you agree with it or that's not what we're going that route. But what I'm saying is at least have a clue so that you're not wasting your time networking in all of the wrong places. And lastly, again, can't say it enough, quality over numbers.
Agreed. All right, Mike, we're going to open up to some questions now.
Yeah, we have a variety of questions, so I'm trying to sort them out here, and I'll fling them over to you as they come in. So I guess we'll start at the top. They wanted to know, what type of groups would you start with if you're just getting into more of a networking vibe? Is there a specific industry that you should connect with? Is there a specific, how would you recommend it, Toye?
Well, I would say, first of all, if you're just starting out in the networking trail and you've already decided, for example, you're interested in being a lawyer. Maybe you're just going to school, you just graduated, and you're saying, where do I go? Who do I? Well, again, Google is your friend. It really is. But you have to think about LinkedIn as one of the, premier sites for professionals. So whether you're just graduating or you are a seasoned professional, you want to start there, and you can go ahead and search for, and just put it right in, almost like a Boolean search, and you put the keywords in and see what comes out. I typically start with Google and then I work my way from there. If I'm looking for other coaches who are doing something similar that are having events in the month of May or June, and then I first Google them, then I'll go back to LinkedIn. If they're on there, I may want to try to connect with them there. And so before you start just clicking that button and saying, great, there's someone who's doing what I want to do, and click, 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 check out the profiles. Start in those small groups, type in exactly what you're looking to do, whether it's lawyer, whether it's medical field, whatever field it is. And one last thing on that, don't just stick with that field, because there are people who are not working in that field right now, but maybe they, in the past, they had that experience. So again, a Boolean search, keywords, be strategic in whatever you do in terms of groups.
The next question is, do you have a recommended number of events that you attend per month or per year that you think is like a key number?
And this is what I say to that. That becomes even more personal challenge, because again, depending on your lifestyle and family life, do you have time? Can you go to 3 or 4? There's some people who are always, they're just available. They're just available. And if that's you, then fantastic. There is no limit, because it's almost like they say, the more you know, the more you grow, the more people that you connect with. But again, over time will become meaningful connections, not just a number, quality versus numbers. Then if it's 2 per week, that's great. That's a great way to start, because the first one, you might say, oh, great, I did it. I'm all excited. Ooh, but I didn't hear from anybody else after that. It's been 30 days and no one, and you reached out to them. Keep moving on. So 2 in a week is fantastic. Maybe one is virtual, maybe one over the phone, and one is maybe you're joining a webinar or something like that. But you need to look at the groups carefully before clicking that button and saying, okay, I'm in. In terms of a year, it will build on that. But in a month, if it's 4 weeks in a month, if you can do 4, that's really the ultimate.
That actually piggybacking off of the one thing that you said in there, a question was, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull it up directly. How many times do you reach out to somebody before you kind of say, they're not going to call me back?
Well, if it's a job interview kind of thing, my background with the HR and working right in the HR department, who is someone that has had thousands of resumes in my hand over a number of years, and you get the call and say, oh, they're calling me again. They're calling me again. What am I? Okay. And so we just need to know how to draw the line between, if, 3 times for me, that's my limit with anybody, really. Because if maybe they didn't see the email the first time, maybe they didn't receive the call because they have so many in their inbox, they just, and the thirdly is that they're just not interested. And so you have to come to grips with, perhaps they're just not interested in developing new relationships in terms of professionals. So you just move on. But I say 3 times is the charm, and then you keep them on the back burner. You never know, they may show up a year from now.
The next question that we have is, how much time per week do you spend networking? I guess a percentage of your week would be helpful.
In terms of me?
Yes, you.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's always. I'm probably the worst example, right? Because again, it's almost like they call it the serial networker, extraordinaire, whatever they call. I just like to try to find new ways. Even now, I'm still trying to find, because this put a hinder, right in my pocket because of that pandemic. And I said, wait a minute, I'm used to being out. I'm extroverted, and now I'm virtual. So what I do, create more posts. Create posts. If you're on social media, create posts. If you're looking for opportunities, create the post to let people know it's right out there, open to work, hashtag open to work on LinkedIn. And I do this constantly. So if I might get some bites and people will comment or they like or what have you. And then I acknowledge, I try to anyway, let me just say, because there may be some of you on this webinar right now say, wait a minute, she didn't acknowledge me. Well, I may not have gotten to it yet, but what my pattern is to at least acknowledge the post at some point. And because you're showing your appreciation of the person taking time out. And so it's very important I do the network on a daily basis through email, as well as social media. I'm out on pretty much the major ones on social media, including my Facebook page, and share.
I have 2 more questions for you. One question is, have you turned down business and connections because your core values don't match? And if so, how did you do that politely?
Because because their core values don't match.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, and again, I'm new to the life coaching game, and this is the truth. What I've learned through that was, wow, okay, well, hey, I'm a coach. Come on, give me a break here, and for new clients and everything. And currently have the 30-minute complimentary coaching call. I learned from other mentors, including my master coach. So, but I had to understand that you want to do everything, you want to land that opportunity, but you don't want to do it at a negative expense. You want to be creative, you want to be respectful. And I had to learn this, is that person has a whole different set of rules than I do, or the way they do their business. And if it seems shady, it is. It probably is. If it seems shady, it probably is. So you want to be careful. I'm always careful of that. And yes, there was a particular time when someone wanted to collaborate. Everything looked so wonderful and everything. I'm a speaker. I was fantastic, ready to go. And it was all when the pandemic started, so it was more virtual. But you know what? Right then and there, the next thing I got an email. Oh, great. Well, then you're going to have to pay something to be. Well, wait a minute. Hey, no, you invited me. I don't get. So again, you have to, and that definitely I turned it down. Still connected, but I turned that particular opportunity down. You have to understand that every opportunity is not, I repeat, not the opportunity ideal for you or your organization.
And then the final question is, what % of your business should come from referrals? Is there a magic number in there?
Ooh, I wish I could know that magic number, because we referrals. And again, because I'm more or less a solo person, I put more emphasis on, what I do throughout my posts, where I do get referrals. But, I always go with that 50-50 rule. It's half of this and half of no. Half of it will be yes and half is no. So if you send me, say, for example, I'm still looking and saying I've opened it up to a 30-minute complimentary coaching call. This is true. You can go to my Facebook page for that and schedule. Okay. Well, if the numbers are down and I'm not seeing anything for 1 and 2 weeks, no one, and even though it's saying complimentary, so there are no guarantees. So that means I have to step up my game a little bit more and reach out to other people. Maybe I need to go in different within organizations or career services groups who are putting people out there to say, hey, they are looking for job opportunities. They don't know how, they need more help and this and that. So you just have to be creative. Referrals, again, if you can get a good 30%, I'm going to say, of referrals, believe it or not, through word of mouth, I think that's a good way to start anyway. As you become more seasoned, if you've been in business for 20 years and all of that, 15, 20 years, then the expectation is someone knows you. So you don't even have to worry about it. They'll just come to you. And that's one good thing about networking. I want to get to a point where I don't have to do like 100 posts per day. Someone will come in my inbox and say, hey, I know about you and what you do, respect and like what you do, and I'd like to collaborate with you. Or by the way, I have someone who is interested in or needs a coach, right, or HR consulting. Yeah.
If anybody has any additional questions, we'll have contact information and ways to contact Toye and John. So we're going to shut them down for now, so that way we can respect everyone's time. But again, this will be a link on YouTube. And so make sure you go to our YouTube page and like and subscribe as well.
Lots of questions. I love it.
Wow, thank you. Yes, I love those questions. And questions is a good thing, because that means people are eager to learn and learn new ways about networking. There's no magic to networking. You just have to, you start at a place and you elevate from there.
And honestly, Toye, it's what you make of it. It's what you put in is what you get out. You put in the effort, it'll pay the returns. If you put in minimal effort, it won't pay the returns. It's really up to you as an individual.
Absolutely. It is up to you as an individual. And then and especially for your personal development or professional development, don't leave any stone unturned when it comes to that, because opportunities are there. People are out there, mentors, coaches, to help you, really help you navigate all of those areas in your life. And as it relates to business, and that's why I entitled it Business and Beyond, because networking is not, and I can't say it enough, it is not all about looking for a job. Companies network all of the time. Maybe they're networking on the golf course. Maybe it's on the with a tennis racket in their hand. Whatever it is, I've done it at the grocery store. Of course, now pandemic, okay, yeah, I got my mask on. Hi, how are you? But I just started, so I kind of missed that, striking up a conversation. And again, you don't have to flood one's inboxes to get noticed. You do not have to do that. If someone is genuinely interested in getting back to you, give them some time, but don't wait on them. You need to move forward in trying to connect with others.
Absolutely. Well, I want to also share my contact information again. If anyone wants to reach out to me to do a market review, please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. There is Toye's contact information. Toye, I want to thank you very, very much today for joining and hosting. I thought this was absolutely wonderful. There's all her contact information. If anyone wants to reach out to Toye directly, I am sure she'd be happy to chat with you.
Yes, absolutely. Don't forget, definitely, if someone is out there and they are looking for that 30-minute complimentary coaching call, just check me out on my Facebook page, Toye Johnson-Vincent. It's hyphenated, and I have a personal profile, but I have a page, and we can do that. And for all of that, as well as my podcast shows, Speak to Me First podcast show, Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and so many more platforms. Check it out if you want to be a guest as well.
Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate everyone joining us today. And again, Toye, thanks again. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, John and Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Toye.